He was not born with wealth, nor was he raised in luxury. In fact, his earliest memories were not of toys or trips or celebrations, but of uncertainty, fear, and silence. The kind of silence that only exists when your parents are trying to hide the weight of unpaid bills or the sound of an empty stomach. From the very beginning, life made it clear that he would have to fight harder than most. He was raised in a small town in the U.S., in a low-income neighborhood where survival was a skill and dreaming too big was often considered naive. His parents did their best, his father working long hours in construction, his mother juggling part-time cleaning jobs, but ends never met, and comfort was always just out of reach. School was no easier. He was the quiet kid at the back of the classroom, often overlooked by teachers, sometimes mocked by classmates for wearing the same clothes multiple days in a row. But there was a fire inside him, lit by books and stories of people who rose from nothing to something. At the local library, a place that became his sanctuary, he read about inventors, entrepreneurs, and underdogs who had changed their lives with ideas, grit, and risk. Those stories planted seeds. After high school, with no scholarship and no family savings, college was a distant dream. So he took up odd jobs, dishwashing, janitorial work, night shifts at gas stations, anything that paid. But even with his relentless work ethic, rent was hard to come by. And then, in his early 20s, everything collapsed. A family emergency drained whatever little savings he had, and a series of job layoffs pushed him to the edge. He tried to hold on, but eventually, he was evicted. With nowhere else to go, he began sleeping in his car. When that was towed due to unpaid tickets, he found himself on the streets. Homeless. The first nights were the worst. The cold, the noise, the feeling of being invisible. But more than anything, it was the shame. The shame of falling through every crack, the humiliation of being seen as nothing more than a burden. He stood in soup kitchen lines, used public restrooms to clean up, and carried all his possessions in a single backpack. He hit rock bottom not once, but many times. He attempted to start small ventures, selling phone accessories on street corners, trying to flip thrift store finds, but nothing stuck. And yet, through it all, he never stopped learning. At libraries, during daylight, he taught himself about business, marketing, sales, e-commerce. He watched free online videos, scribbled ideas in old notebooks, and mapped out plans most would call foolish. Then came his first break. With a borrowed laptop at a 24/7 diner and a free Wi-Fi connection, he built a simple e-commerce website. He didn't have inventory, so he used dropshipping. He didn't have money for ads, so he learned organic marketing, forums, Reddit threads, Facebook groups. His first sale was a phone case, $8.95. Most people wouldn't blink at that amount, but for him, it felt like $1 million. It proved one thing. Someone somewhere believed enough in something he had created to pay for it. That changed everything. From that moment, he committed fully. He used every waking hour to grow. He moved from dropshipping to creating branded products. He emailed suppliers, negotiated better rates, learned about fulfillment and customer service. He reinvested every dollar. No new clothes, no luxuries, just business. He failed many times. Orders got delayed, websites crashed, customers demanded refunds. But with each failure, he learned and adapted. Within a year, he was earning enough to rent a studio apartment. It was small and modest, but it had a door, a bed, and a desk. That was more than enough. Then he scaled. Slowly, methodically, he added new products, launched better websites, tested different audiences. He built a social media following around his brand. One of his videos went viral, and suddenly, he was flooded with thousands of orders. He stayed up nights packing boxes, responding to emails, managing logistics. When he couldn't do it alone anymore, he hired freelancers, people from across the world who believed in his mission. He created systems, automated what he could, and invested in tools to make things smoother. By the third year, his business had crossed 7 figures in revenue. He had gone from homeless to a 6-figure income, and then to millionaire status. But he didn't stop there. He used his profits to diversify, investing in real estate, starting a media company, mentoring other struggling entrepreneurs. He created an online academy to teach people exactly what he had done, step by step, no fluff. And it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about legacy. About lifting others the way he had once prayed to be lifted. His story made headlines. He was invited to conferences, podcasts, and TV shows. Not because he was flashy, but because his story was real, raw, authentic. He spoke of failure as a friend, of rock bottom as a foundation, of rejection as redirection. He told people that success doesn't come from luck or privilege. It comes from refusal. Refusal to quit. Refusal to accept your current reality as your final one. Refusal to let go of the belief that you were meant for more. And still, he remained grounded. He visited shelters, donated to job training programs, and anonymously funded startup grants for underprivileged youth. Because he remembered every cold night, every skipped meal, every doubt that threatened to silence his dream. He remembered, and he turned that memory into fuel. Today, he is a billionaire. Not just in dollars, but in impact. In lives changed. In communities rebuilt. And yet, if you ask him what kept him going, he doesn't say ambition or fame. He says it was the fear of dying with his story untold, of leaving the world without proving that even the most broken beginnings can lead to the most beautiful outcomes. This is his story. From homeless to billionaire. Not a fairy tale. A blueprint. A reminder that it doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you refuse to stop. And even after achieving the kind of success that most people only ever fantasize about, he continued building, not out of greed, but out of purpose. With wealth came more opportunities, and he wasn't about to let any of them go to waste. He invested not just in companies, but in people. He began partnering with schools to offer young students real-world business experience. He set up community learning centers in underserved neighborhoods where kids could access laptops, mentorship, and education that could change their futures. But it wasn't just about giving back. He believed that success without succession was failure in disguise. He wanted to create a generation of thinkers, doers, and dreamers who wouldn't have to sleep on sidewalks before the world believed in them. He also started a fund for formerly incarcerated individuals, giving them a second chance through entrepreneurship training and microloans. If the system won't hire them, I'll help them hire themselves, he said in an interview that went viral. His inbox was flooded with messages, some from people who had been inspired by his story, others from those who were still living in their darkest hour, asking for advice, mentorship, or just hope. And somehow, he answered most of them. Every message was a reminder of the version of himself who once begged for a sign that things could change. He wrote a book, not because he wanted to sell copies, but because he wanted his grandchildren, and anyone else who cared to listen, to know the full story. The nights he didn't sleep because he didn't know where he'd get his next meal. The betrayal of friends who doubted him. The exhaustion that came from wearing too many hats and chasing too many deadlines. But also, the tiny wins that kept him alive. The first time someone called him, "Sir," instead of pretending he didn't exist. The moment he saw his mother smile again after he paid off her mortgage. The time he bought a building for the very library where he had first dreamed of a better life. His journey taught him that the real currency of life isn't money, it's growth. How much you can stretch your mind, your patience, your courage. He said he feared comfort more than failure, because comfort dulls hunger, numbs purpose, and whispers false peace. So he kept challenging himself, launching a new fintech app that helped small business owners manage cash flow, building sustainable housing projects in disaster-stricken areas, and advising new startups led by people with no connections but relentless drive. He was also invited to speak at some of the biggest business schools and corporate events around the world. Standing on those glossy stages with spotlights and applause, he never felt pride. He felt responsibility. Because he knew someone in the audience might be at their lowest point, wondering if this world still had room for them. And he wanted to be the proof they needed. He still worked long hours, though now from offices with skyline views instead of corner cafes. He kept a framed photo of himself from his homeless days on his desk, not as a trophy, but as a compass. To never forget who he was, what he endured, and why he must keep going. Because he knew that no matter how far you climb, you're never too high to help someone rise. From homeless to billionaire wasn't a destination. It was a path, paved with choices. He chose grit over grief, creation over complaint, effort over excuses. And that's why his story resonates, not because of the riches, but because of the resilience.